What's up, Taiwan? I'm Erika Liu with 10 minutes of news from here in Taiwan and around the world. Taiwan has condemned China for holding its second military combat drills around the island in less than a month. The Defense Ministry says it detected 57 warplanes and 4 naval ships near the country's borders. Of the group, 28 aircraft breached the country's Air Defense Identification Zone, or ADIZ. The ADIZ is not sovereign airspace, but is used by the military as a buffer zone for defensive purposes. The latest incursion included 3 drones, over 20 fighter jets, 2 bombers, and a radar plane. For more on the drills, our reporter Jaime Ocon spoke to Ben Lewis, a defense expert in Washington, D.C., who tracks Taiwan's ADIZ activity.
What can you tell us about the recent incursion, and what do you think prompted this reaction?
It was a diverse grouping, mostly fighter aircraft, but it was notable that the drone took an extended flight route. We've never seen a drone do that before. And I think it's most likely that this is kind of a coalescent response to what seems to be a kind of a busy time for U.S.-Taiwan relations in the past couple of weeks. So we had the NDAA signed, and then, of course, on December 25th, we had a very large incursion, one of the largest of last year. But we also had Volcano anti-tank systems. That arms sale was confirmed. The USS Chunhoon transited the Taiwan Strait on Thursday. And I think it's kind of a combination of those things that the PLA is responding to in this instance. They announced these exercises this morning through Chinese state media. And what the Chinese state media actually said was they listed those things specifically, but they also mentioned that analysts in the mainland were hoping that the newly elected House Speaker of the United States Congress, McCarthy, would take notice to the message that they were sending. So all in all, I think it's a kind of a combo deal of responses that kind of turned into a very sizable amount of aircraft in the ADIZ.
Can you talk about how China is using these drones in these types of operations?
So China has made an effort to develop modern advanced drones to support both its naval aviation, its ground forces, and its air force. And I think the general idea is with all automation is burden sharing. So now you can have fighters operating without a manned support aircraft. You have a UAV flying with them, essentially a permanent wingman for that fighter. And in general, I think they want to have experience using drones because we've seen how effective drones are over the last decade, especially in the last year. And so in general, I think we're going to see more drones as we go forward. Since drones started being publicly tracked by the MND on September 5th of 2022, they've made up around 10% of the amount of aircraft we've seen.
That was Ben Lewis speaking about the recent Chinese military activity around Taiwan. The Speaker of Paraguay's Chamber of Deputies has met with President Tsai Ing-wen. Carlos Maria Lopez praised Taiwan and Paraguay's long-standing ties and thanked Taiwan for its support for scholarship programs between the two countries. President Tsai welcomed Lopez to Taiwan. She says she hopes his visit can lead to what she calls a big step forward in bilateral ties. Paraguay is one of 14 countries that have full diplomatic ties with Taiwan, but Lopez's visit comes at a time when those ties may be under threat. Paraguay's main opposition candidate for president has said he'll cut off relations with Taiwan if he wins April's general election. Ferry services between several Taiwanese islands and China have resumed. That's after a long hiatus brought on by the COVID pandemic. But as John Ventrius reports, China's new COVID surge could complicate the reopening.
For the first time in 3 years, boats like this one are welcoming passengers aboard. This ferry links Taiwan's Matsu Islands with the nearby Chinese coast. Many locals have family on both sides, making this half-hour boat ride an important link. But the COVID pandemic saw crossings halted, leaving people separated from their loved ones. It's been the same story on the islands of Jinmen, which lie within sight of the Chinese city of Xiamen. Now, 3 years on, borders are open again. And the ferries are running again too, just in time to allow families to gather for the Lunar New Year. Given the recent COVID surge in China, only residents of these islands, and their Chinese spouses or children, are allowed on the ferries for now. And they're tested for COVID as soon as they arrive from China. On the first crossing to Jinmen, 7 passengers tested positive. Local officials are calling for the ferry service to adopt the more rigorous testing rules already in place for travelers arriving from China by air.
入境的旅客，因为要考量我们闭关的医疗量能，我们也希望他们同步跟我们48小时核酸检测。
Medical experts also suggest testing arrivals from China for COVID antibodies.
我觉得出来的时候，如果在入境检测的时候可以加入抗体检测，也就是说，如果他有抗体，表示他已经康复有保护力，那这样的进入这个台湾也好，或进入其他世界各地也好，就不会有威胁。
Taiwan is already registering tens of thousands of cases a day, and officials in Jinmen and Matsu want to keep their islands from becoming a backdoor, letting in a new COVID surge. Ethan Pan and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
The acting chair of the ruling Democratic Progressive Party, or DPP, has said the party must reflect after a by-election defeat in Taipei.
选举过后，又是新的一天的开始。我想我们还是重新的，希望说能够在各项的这个不管是政策，能够更接地气。那另外在我们的组织文宣这个部分，也有很多我们要检讨的地方。
The DPP's Enoch Wu lost out to Wang Hongwei of the opposition Kuomintang, or KMT, in the race for the Taipei legislative seat. Wang won the 52% of the vote compared to Wu's 47%. The by-election was triggered after the KMT's Jiang Wan'an won the Taipei mayoral race in last year's local elections, where the DPP also suffered heavy losses. Taiwan is introducing a new tariff on large water users. It's hoped the measure will prevent the waste of an increasingly important resource. Ryan Hill-Kilpatrick has this story.
Like other commodities and basic necessities, the price of water is due to increase, but not for your average consumer. Starting February 1st, big water users in Taiwan will be subject to an additional tariff called a water consumption fee. It comes on top of their monthly water bill, but only during the dry season, which began in November and is expected to last into April.
那耗水费是针对每个月用水9000度，也就是9000吨以上的用水大户来开征。那这个每一度的耗水费是课征3块钱。
Between 1,700 and 2,200 companies are expected to be affected by the tariff. Those hit the hardest include industrial powerhouses like TSMC, China Steel, and Formosa Plastics.
当初我们设立这个公司的时候，并没有预设说以后会有耗水费，这我们以前也做了很多的努力，等于说是不管好学生、坏学生，通通都打一组，对不对？这样子做好像没有那么恰当啊。
For the first 2 years, the government will collect just half the tariff amount. Afterward, these can also be reduced to just $1 Taiwan per cubic meter if a certain portion of the water used is recycled. Authorities hope this will incentivize firms to invest in conservation and recycling during the buffer period. For some, it's a manageable burden.
因为我们公司本身我们的用水的回收率很高，符合它的条件可以做一些优惠减免。对我们来讲，一个月增加38.5万应该是 OK 的。
Droughts have worsened in Taiwan in recent years due to a dearth of rain-bringing typhoons. Lawmakers have called on authorities to increase the country's water prices in order to encourage conservation. Despite its relative scarcity here, the price of water set by the government is even lower than the cost of production, sitting at around 1/5 of the price in neighboring Japan. Bumping these up is a potentially unpopular move, but ensuring the biggest users shoulder the burden could make it easier to swallow. Ryan Hill-Kilpatrick for TaiwanPlus.
K-pop superstars Blackpink have added a second tour date in Taiwan. That's after their upcoming show in the southern city of Kaohsiung sold out within seconds. The South Korean pop group announced a new show in the city on March 19th, the day after their first performance. Pre-sale tickets will be available on Wednesday, with sales open to the general public the day after. Blackpink's first show sold out seconds after tickets went live in November. Scalpers then began selling them for as much as $6,000 each. The girl group's upcoming shows will be its second time performing in Taiwan after it toured in Taipei in 2019. Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. Finally, we leave you with images of a 6-month-old red-crowned crane at Taipei Zoo. I'm Erika Liu. Take care and see you next time.